Learning goal number 22, special angle pairs. All right, learning goal number 22, we're talking about special pairs of angles. I'm weird. First example, or the first type of special pairs of angles we're going to talk about are vertical angles. Now, vertical angles are opposite angles formed by intersecting lines. They are angles that are basically across from each other when you have intersecting lines. For example, angle 1 and angle 3, and angle 4 and angle 2. Now, the interesting or the important thing about vertical angles is that vertical angles are congruent. And when I say congruent, that's a geometrical term that just means they're equal in measure. They have the same value. So if angle 1 was 80 degrees, then angle 3 would be 80 degrees. And if angle 4 was 100, then angle 2 would be 100. Vertical angles are opposite angles formed by intersecting lines that are across from each other there. And they're congruent. Complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. They don't have to be next to each other, but in this example, they are. You can see angle ABD and angle CBD. They're right next to each other. One is 50 and the other is 40. If you add those together, you get 90. And complementary angles add up to 90. So angle ABD and angle CBD are complementary. All right, supplementary angles. They add up to 180 degrees. For example, angle C here is 125 degrees, and angle D is 55 degrees. 125 plus 55 gives you 180. So angle C and angle D are supplementary. Now, here's a little trick I have to be able to remember how to separate them. Complementary angles. Complementary starts with a C. I can make that into a 9 with one single line to represent 90. Complementary, 90 degrees. Supplementary starts with an S, and I can make that S into an 8 with one single line, and that represents 180 degrees. So complementary add up to 90, supplementary add up to 180, and also take note of how I named these angles. You can name an angle based off of its 3 points that make it up, the vertice being in the middle, so ABD, ABD, and CBD. I could name this angle up here DBA, and this one DBC, right? So you can name them in 2 different directions. Or if they don't share vertices, you can just call this angle C and this angle D. But I can't refer to these 2 angles as angle B, because B serves as a vertice, or it makes up the corner of an angle for multiple angles, so I can't do that. So it's important to remember how to name angles. All right, in example number 1, I just want to find the value of x. Well, here's what I need to take note of. I see 2 intersecting lines, and when you see 2 intersecting lines, those angles across from each other are considered to be vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. Now, in math, to show congruency of angles, we mark them with this little arc, this little like half circle portion in the angle vertice, and that represents them being congruent. So x is actually going to be equal to whatever is vertical from it, 150 degrees. Now, if we take a look at example 2 here, you can see that we have 2 angles that are right next to each other. And this little symbol right here in the corner that looks like a square, right? That means that that's a right angle. That means that this is equal to 90 degrees. So this whole thing is 90 degrees. So basically, if we think about equations, right? These 2 angles, x and 65, they add together to equal 90. And if I solve that equation, I can solve for x. Subtract 65 from both sides, and x is equal to 90 minus 65 will be 25 degrees. So x is equal to 25 degrees because because this angle and this angle are complementary. They add up to equal 90 degrees. So therefore, you can solve for x, which would be 25 degrees. All right, when we're looking at example number 3 here, I see a line, and that line is divided into two angles. An angle that is x degrees and an angle that is 38 degrees. Well, here's what I need to understand. A line is made up of 180 degrees. So if I add these two angles together, I should get 180 degrees. And then from there, I can subtract 38 and solve. So this angle would equal 142 degrees.